Hare Krishna. Let us understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So let us understand these chapters section by section. Before we begin the discussion, let us offer our prayers to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we will be understanding the second section of chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. Second section is from Shloka number 29 to Shloka number 49. So let us understand this section. Lord Krishna says, Buddhir bhedam dhriteshchaiva gunatastrividham shruno prochyamanam asheshena pruthakwena dhananjaya. Now, O winner of wealth, please listen as I tell you in detail of the three kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of nature. So Krishna will be describing about understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature in this section, along with happiness and four social orders. So Krishna says, Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya karye bhaya bhaye bandham moksham cha yavetti buddhissa partha satviki. O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, that understanding is established in the mode of goodness. Actions which are performed in terms of the directions of the scriptures are called pravritti, or actions that deserve to be performed, and actions which are not directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness. So further Krishna says, Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyameva cha ayathavat prajanati buddhissa partha rajasi. And that understanding which cannot distinguish between the religious way of life and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, that imperfect understanding, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of passion. Intelligence in the mode of passion is always working perversely. It accepts religions which are not actually religious and rejects actual religion. All views and activities are misguided. Men of passionate intelligence understand a great soul to be a common man and accept a common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of passion. So further Krishna says, अधर्मं धर्मम् इति या मन्यते तमसावृता सर्वार्थान् विपरीतांश्च बुद्धिः सा पार्थ तामसी. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of ignorance. Then further Krishna says, Dhrityayaya dharayate manah pranendriya kriyah yogena bhyabhicharinya dhritis sa partha satviki. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadiness by yoga practice and thus controls the mind, life and the acts of the senses, is in the mode of goodness. So in the purport Srila Prabhupada says, yoga is a means to understand the Supreme Soul. One who is steadily fixed in the Supreme Soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life and sensual activities on the Supreme, engages in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is in the mode of goodness. The word Avyabhicharinya is very significant, for it refers to persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness and are never deviated by any other activity. So one has to be so determined that he always acts for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Krishna and never deviate from that understanding. So further Krishna says, Yaya tu dharma kamarthan dhritya dharayate arjuna prasangena phalakankshi dhritis sa partha rajasi. And that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive result in religion, economic development and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madamevacha navimunchati dhurmedha dhritis sa partha tamasi. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness and illusion, such unintelligent determination is in the mode of darkness. Sukham tvidanim trividham shrunu me bharatarshabha abhyasadramate yatra dukkhantam cha nigacchati yattadagre vishamiva pariname amritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So here Krishna has described about happiness in the mode of goodness. So in the purport Srila Prabhupada writes, a conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus he chews the chewed. But sometimes in the course of such enjoyment, he becomes relieved from material entanglement by association with a great soul. In other words, a conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification, but when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, and he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison, but if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. Then further Krishna says, विषयेन्द्रिय संयोगात् यत्तद् अग्रे अमृतोपमं परिणामे विषमिवा तत्सुखं राजसंस्मृतं. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at the first but poison at the end is said to be of the nature of passion. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, a young man and a young woman meet and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated or there is divorce, there is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. So further Krishna says, Yadagre cha anubandhe cha sukham mohanam atmanaha nidralasya pramadotham tattamasamudahritam. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. So Srila Prabhupada writes, one who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, and one who has no idea how to act and how not to act is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning and at the end distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress both in the beginning and at the end. So these were the three kinds of happiness according to the three modes of material nature. One should always take pain or tapasya or austerity to elevate spiritually and derive real pleasure of the soul, rather than working hard for achieving sensual pleasures, just like people in the mode of passion or people in the mode of ignorance perform. So we should always be directed by a spiritual master, and under the guidance of a spiritual master and scriptures, we should take up all pains for spiritual elevation, which will give us real happiness. So further Krishna says, Na tadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha satvam prakriti jairmuktam yadebhisyatri gunaihi. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is freed from the three modes of material nature. So the influence of material nature is there throughout the universe. No one is free from the three modes of material nature. So further Krishna describes about the four social orders of life. Krishna says, Brahmana kshatriya visham shudranam cha parantapa karmani pravibhaktani svabhava prabhavair gunaihi. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are distinguished by their qualities of work, O chastiser of the enemy, in accordance with the modes of nature. So the four social orders, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, they are distinguished according to the modes of nature which one is influenced. So Krishna will be describing the qualities of each social order now. So Krishna says, Shamodamastapashaucham kshantirarjavamevacha jnanam vijnanamasstikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Shauryam tejo dhritirdakshyam yuddhe chapyapalayanam danam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma svabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. कृषिगो रक्ष्य वाणिज्यं वैश्यकर्म स्वभावजं परिचर्यात्मकं कर्म शूद्रस्यापि स्वभावजं. Farming, cow protection and business are the qualities of work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras there is labor and service to others. So these are the different qualities and work according to the different modes of nature. So Krishna is now describing how one can achieve perfection by performing activities according to the modes of nature he is influenced. So Krishna says, Sve sve karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labhate naraha swakarma niratah siddhim yatha vindati tashrunu. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. Yataha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmanatam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. In reality, each and every living being is part of the Supreme Lord Krishna, but somehow being separated from the Supreme Lord, the conditioned souls in this material world have acquired material body and false egos, and they are acting according to the false egos. But in human form of life, which has complete developed senses, mind and intelligence, one can understand the reality, and instead of acting for one's own bodily sensual pleasures, one can act for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. By acting in that way, one can become free from the influence of material nature and return back to the spiritual kingdom of God. So that is what Krishna is mentioning here, and further Krishna explains this. So Krishna says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swabhavaniyatam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Prescribed duties according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. According to the modes of material nature which one has acquired, one has to perform those works, even though it may appear to be troublesome. Brahmanas have to do their duties, Kshatriyas have to do their duties. Brahmanas sometimes have to sacrifice animals while performing fire sacrifices. Of course, in Kali Yuga, animal sacrifices are forbidden, but there are sacrifices recommended in the scriptures, such as Ashwamedha Yajna, where horses are offered in sacrifice. When an animal is offered in the sacrifice, that animal is actually not killed. It gets a fresh body immediately, either an animal body or a human body. So the animal being sacrificed is actually benefited. So a Brahmana has to perform all those duties for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord without considering the trouble involved in those activities. Similarly, a Kshatriya, while ruling, he has to commit violence against thieves, rogues and enemies in order to protect the citizens. So he should not hesitate to commit such violence while performing his duties. Similarly, Vaishyas, while doing business, they may have to tell lies to earn some profit. They may have to deal in black market to earn some profit. So one should not avoid doing these things while performing his duties. Similarly, Shudras, they have to give their service to their masters. Sometimes the masters may not be of good character. Still, it is the duty of the Shudra to continue to serve them. So by performing one's own duties according to the nature he has acquired, one can actually elevate and achieve perfection in life. So Krishna clarifies that. Krishna says, Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api natyajet sarvarambha hi doshena dhumenagnir ivavrata. Every endeavor is covered by some sort of fault. just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work which is born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Here, Krishna is describing with an example. When there is fire, there is smoke which is produced of fire and it covers the fire. Still, the fire is pure, it remains pure. In the same way, while performing one's duties, there may be some faults. Just like Brahmanas, they have to offer animals in sacrifice if required. Kshatriyas have to perform violence for protecting the citizens. Vaishyas have to tell some lies to earn profits. So in that way there is some fault in every work, but one should not give up his work just because there is some fault. In the same way, when fire is lit, there will be smoke. So just because there is smoke, one will not stop lighting fire for cooking or performing sacrifices or in industries. So one has to tolerate the smoke and light the fire and do his duties to produce either some industrial products or to perform yajnas or to cook food and offer it to the Lord. One has to tolerate the smoke. In the same way, while performing our activities according to our nature, there will be some trouble in each activity. One has to tolerate those troubles and continue performing his duties and offer the result to the Supreme Lord. In that way, that whole activity becomes perfect. So Krishna says, Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata spraha naishkarmya siddhim paramam sanyasenadhigacchati. One can obtain the results of renunciation simply by self-control and by becoming unattached to material things and disregarding material enjoyments. That is the highest perfectional stage of renunciation. So Krishna is now concluding about the topic of renunciation. The highest stage perfection of renunciation is that Krishna is telling here, one can obtain the results of renunciation simply by self-control and becoming unattached to material things and disregarding material enjoyments. So due to ignorance, we all think that I am this material body and work for bodily sense pleasures. But in full knowledge, when one comes to true knowledge that I am not this body, I am spirit soul part of Krishna, my duty is to just please Krishna, then one stops performing activities meant for pleasing the senses and he starts working only for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That is the perfection of renunciation. Renunciation means giving up activities which are meant for pleasing one's own bodily senses and acting for the pleasure of spiritual senses of the Lord. That is called Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of life which each and every one of us can achieve. So next what happens, we will understand in the next section. Hare Krishna.